Southern pine beetle, Dendroctonus frontalis, is a very important native bark beetle that affects our, native pine species, and it actually can affect multiple species. But this is a native pine beetle that actually responds to stress and silviculture and various management practices, and it's one that occurs in cycles. It's not one that we have in large populations all the time. We can have these wave years, or waves where we'll have big outbreaks of it, and then it'll sort of go back into low levels, and so its biology is very interesting, and there's a lot of kind of interesting studies that have sort of revealed the various aspects of its biology and so on. But it's a bark beetle, meaning that it feeds right under the bark. It actually feeds on just under the bark, on the cambial layer, right under the bark, and so it's actually it is certainly capable of killing trees. It usually, like I said, it's responding to some sort of stress, typically, at least in the outbreak behavior. And it's during those outbreaks when you have large populations that the beetles can attack healthy trees. But when it's in the sort of the non-outbreak years, that it won't be attacking healthy trees. It's only going to be affecting trees that are certainly under some sort of stress, trees that have been attacked or hit by lightning, or trees that are under some sort of severe drought stress or something like that. So let's talk about identification. So this is a very small beetle, and we have some specimens here for you to see. Okay, they're very, very, very small. They're about a millimeter, or even I guess a little bit less. They're very, very small in length, and so these guys are typically, when they bore into the tree, they're boring in between the plates and the bark. Okay, and they actually, and you can kind of see it here, but I don't actually have good specimens that actually show the pitch tubes that they make. But typically, when this species is attacking, it's not going right through the thickest parts of the bark. It's actually going sort of in between. Okay, you can kind of see that here in this right here through this Riker mount. You can kind of see it's going in between the plates, and that's usually indicative of the size of the beetle, whether it goes through the plates or in between the plates. This one typically goes in between. It makes these galleries, so underneath the bark, where it's feeding and so on. They're actually sort of undulating. We sometimes refer to them as being somewhat S-shaped, and you can see that here. They have these somewhat random, overlapping, undulating galleries. Okay, that are sort of curving in shape. Okay. Very distinctive, very characteristic of the southern pine beetle. Now, other features. Here's a close-up of one. If you really want to see it, if you look closely, they tend to be sort of dark brown in color. They have some hair on their surface, but you have to look at it under some magnification to see those details of it. And from a distance, if you saw trees that were attacked, bark beetle affected trees, all of them look the same. There's not a lot, you wouldn't be able to tell a tree affected by southern pine beetle from others, and there's a lot of confusion when people see trees affected. They're going to see trees that are fading in color. They're going to see patches. Usually we see pocket mortality. We see trees in the middle that have been dead the longest, and then on the margins, trees that have died more recently, and then trees further out that are currently just starting to show signs of stress or weakening. And so you'd have to go look at those trees and see, do you see this? Do you see evidence of bark beetle attack? And then do you see, something that looks like the southern pine beetle attacking it? Very often people think they have a southern pine beetle and they don't, they have something else. And so basically this is the identification. Look for those these really small beetles, and then the S-shaped galleries. Those are the key things that you're going to want to look for.